So putting all these things together, understanding the complexity of the conflict, the drivers, the types of dispute resolution that are available to communities, we're going to apply these concepts to a case study. The Millennium Village Project is a partner of the larger Côte Sud initiative, and it involves 18 communes in the southern portion of Haiti. It's the first initiative of its time to promote long-term sustainable development and natural resource management. The goal of the MVP, the Millennium Village Project, is to improve agricultural productivity, to gradually improve long-term rural livelihoods, and to stimulate local businesses. As we talk about the Millennium Village Project, what I want to present to you is a conceptual framework so that you have a way to examine local dispute resolution through your own lens. First of all, you can ask yourself, where are these conflicts within the conflict cycle? In the Millennium Village Project case, it's at the pre-conflict stage. At present, there are really no violent conflicts within the southern region. However, there are chronic and long-term family, inheritance, and succession conflicts at the local level. The reason that it's important to know this is because if the goals of the CSI and the Millennium Village Project are to increase agricultural output and to utilize and enhance natural resources, the outcome will likely be rising land values. These existing latent conflicts can become imbued with more urgency as pressures on land in terms of land values rise. Another way for you to look at your conflict is to say, what are the drivers? What's happening currently that can push latent conflict into a more violent phase? Disputes related to land conflicts at this stage are often set against a backdrop of historical injustice, aggravated by a scarcity of land, climate change, degrading resources, and prospects of land values rising. So what are some of the signs that these drivers are pushing latent conflicts into a more overt conflict? The landscape is generally characterized by confusion in the land administration system, implementation of land law, which is manifest in general land tenure insecurity. People are unsure whether the legal system can resolve their disputes. They may have partial land tenure security, and we start to see that grievances are expanding in number and type. The most important actions to be taken at this time is really in the area of conflict prevention. You have to understand the potential impacts of program interventions on the existing conflict context, monitor the types and frequency of land dispute, and also see to what extent the existing dispute resolution mechanisms are functioning to resolve those disputes. So again, applying the Côte Sud MVP project, we see that its location is within the pre-conflict phase of the conflict cycle. The underlying drivers, first of all, systemic flaws in land titling and land registration. Because of the levels of poverty and general confusion around the land administration process, transactions are often incomplete, carried through verbal agreement, and falsification of documents is not an uncommon feature of the land administration system. Excessive fragmentation of land has meant that there are more sharecropping arrangements. These are informal arrangements. And as rising land values occur, vulnerability to eviction for these sharecroppers could be another conflict driver. Because sharecroppers have almost no land rights that are registered, this makes them particularly vulnerable to eviction and loss of livelihoods. further entrenching poverty for an already vulnerable group. Natural resource degradation has been a feature in Haiti's landscape. Excessive use of timber harvesting for charcoal production, resource extraction for short-term profits as opposed to a long-term investment occurs because people don't have secure rights, so they want to maximize their profits as much as possible. And finally, land inheritance disputes. The issue of family land in the southern region of Haiti is a primary issue. By law, children inherit equal shares of the land. However, because land transactions are often incomplete or verbal or unregistered, people may try to claim their rights at another time and only to find that siblings or other family members have sold their land. The earthquake of 2010 saw a reverse migration from Port-au-Prince into the rural areas, thereby exacerbating the problem of family land. So what are the potential drivers in the Haitian case? First of all, some experts in Haiti, some land tenure and property rights experts say that the informal system, which hears about 80% of the cases in the 18 communes, do an adequate job at resolving land tenure disputes. However, this ad hoc system may not adjust to rapidly changing land values or business investment. Secondly, development strategies that are going to increase agricultural productivity will put a strain on fragmented land plots. There will be tremendous pressure to consolidate land for larger scale agricultural production. And thirdly, and most importantly, the weakness of the land tenure dispute resolution system in Haiti, particularly the formal, and a lack of recognition of the usefulness and efficacy of the informal system. So what the Millennium Village Project did was that it proposed a series of actions to address these gaps and recommended strengthening both the formal and the informal dispute resolution system. It's important to note in the Haitian context that the informal is the best and most often used system for true dispute resolution. And in the formal system, people are hesitant to utilize it for a few reasons. One, enforcement can tend to be weak. Two, the costs of hearing a local dispute resolution can be up to 20% of the actual value of the land. And third, the documentation presented in a formal venue can be of questionable origin. So what the MVP project did was propose a series of recommendations. And what's so interesting about their particular findings was that not only did they propose a series of recommendations, but they also proposed an implementation plan with the timing and phasing of what they were recommending. I think it's really important in your communities to think about not just what we're going to do, but when are we going to do it? What are some of the structuring initiatives that you need in your community to be effective in creating a solid dispute resolution system? The first thing that they proposed was a vigorous process of civic engagement. The second recommendation the MVP made was to increase the legal capacity of judges, notaries, surveyors, and any legal officials. One of the biggest problems in Haiti is that people are unfamiliar with the existing laws and therefore are not able to arbitrate fairly or keeping in line with what the existing law is. The third recommendation was legal aid counseling, and this is a program to help educate people, not just elites, about land law and where they can go for fair dispute resolution. The fourth recommendation was to improve the capacity of both the formal and the informal dispute resolution mechanisms. And the emphasis on this was really building on what currently exists as opposed to imposing new systems on the current system. The fifth recommendation was to begin the mapping program. By most estimates, only 5% of Haitian land is actually in a national cadastre. By utilizing mobile devices, the process can begin to register local parcels of land and thereby capture competing claims on the same parcel. This is known as standardized domain modeling and can be very useful to your community to begin to capture in a land administration system who owns what or who claims ownership to what. Finally, in the Côte du Sud region, the MVP recommended a campaign of watershed planning. Participatory planning is new to the region, and the hope is that through mechanisms where all members of the community are involved, they can begin to plan for the access and use of natural resources in the area, that people would begin to agree that long-term sustainable use of natural resources is essential. So you had 6 recommendations. What the MVP proposed was an actual sequencing of these interventions. And what they've proposed first is to engage in year 1 in watershed planning and also registering land through domain modeling. These are considered structuring initiatives, getting planning processes established, getting land registered, then phasing in legal training. And the legal training would include judges, notaries, surveyors, those in local communities, village leaders, communal section administrators. And the idea is that if everyone across the board, across the land administration and legal system, are educated, there will be more consistency in applying the rule of law and less confusion around what people's tenure rights actually are. Finally, they propose strengthening the existing formal system through the establishment of land tribunals. These would function in a circuit fashion. So in other words, cases could be heard within the communities as opposed to people having to go to centers, which are often too expensive. They are not able to access them because of transportation and resources.